Welcome back to another edition of Baseball for Maniacs. The topic of this episode is going to be, will Adolis Garcia bounce back in 2026? And I'm going to give my player preview for him as I've been doing for all the Philadelphia Phillies players. So when the Phillies signed Adolis Garcia, I was ecstatic because I'm like, finally, we got a guy with flair. We got a guy with culture. We're not just a bunch of frat white guys named Alec, Trey, Bryce, and Kyle. Like, the Phillies needed some culture, and they got that with Adolis Garcia. And then once the signing happened, you knew that Nick Castellanos was gone, even though before the signing, he wasn't returning. So it just was so exciting in the sense of the floor with Nick Castellanos is already at ground zero to where whoever you replace him with is going to be an upgrade. Now, in my ideal world, I would want it to bring Bader back, trade Marsh. I like Marsh. I think he is a good player in a platoon role to where he only hits against right-handed pitching. He plays gold glove defense in left field, not center. But I would have traded Marsh, put Crawford in left because I really like Justin Crawford. I think he's going to have a really good year in his rookie season for the Phillies. I just think he profiles better as a defensive left fielder than center fielder. But nevertheless, they didn't bring back Bader. Marsh is still here. Crawford's in center. So it doesn't really diminish the sense of how excited I am for Adolis Garcia. It was more of like, why not allocate your money to a Harrison Bader in center field? Because then he'll play every day. Adolis Garcia is going to play every day. Justin Crawford is going to play every day. Because ideally, you don't want platoon players. You want players seeing everyday pitching that does two things. One, that means they're a good player against both sides of the pitching. Two, it will help their production against their natural side to where a righty or a lefty because they're playing every day and they get more into a rhythm. But that's not the here nor there. No matter what the Phillies did with not bringing back Bader, keeping Marsh, I'm still very excited for Adolis Garcia because, again, he's replacing Castellanos. We can only go up from here. So let's get into his last couple of years. 2023 was his best season. He batted 245, 39 homers, 836 OPS for a 4.5 WAR. And then we all saw what he did in the playoffs. And that's another point about a playoff riser. The Phillies need to start bringing in players that have two things. One, a flair, a kind of energy about them, similar to what Bader had, to where that kind of personality plays in the postseason. They're not going to be afraid of the moment. Harrison Bader clearly wasn't. Unfortunately, he got hurt in game one, but he's a big-time player, and he showed that in the 2022 playoffs with the Yankees when he hit like 5 or 6 homers. And Adolis Garcia has proven that. What he did for the Texas Rangers, he was their best hitter. He directly led them to a World Series championship, to where even if he kind of struggles a little bit in the regular season or he kind of has the offensive production that he's been having, if he's still playing for us, he's going to be a playoff riser. The power is real, and I could just imagine it. NLDS game one, we're down 2-0. There's bases loaded, 2 outs. And instead of Alec Boehm coming up, it's Adolis Garcia. And the whole stadium is ready to explode because they're pissed off. We're down 1-0. We're down 2-0. We're going to lose game one again. And Adolis Garcia comes up and just looks the pitcher in his eye, sends one to the freaking moon. CBP erupts. The whole stadium comes crashing down. We win game one, and then we go off on our playoff run. You can see him very excited about Adolis Garcia. But let's get into the negatives because his last 2 years have not been good to where that led to the Texas Rangers not tendering him to where he was even available for a 1-year prove-it deal. In 2024, he had a 0.3 WAR, batted 224, 25 homers, and a 684 OPS. And for some reason, the defense wasn't good because Adolis Garcia, when the bat's not working, his calling card is his defense to where his floor as a player gets risen. For some reason, he struggled defensively. But in 2025, he got back to his defensive metrics and he played very well, leading to a 2.7 WAR, still struggling with the bat, batting 227, 19 homers for a 685 OPS. But you can just see right there, he was 2.4 wins above replacement better in 2025 than 2024, even though he struggled with the bat more because of what he brings on the defensive side of the baseball. And I kind of want to get into his baseball savant page on the defensive side. Also give the baseball savant page for Nick Castellanos because that's who he's replacing. That's where you kind of have to look at this. It's not just, we can't expect Adolis Garcia to be an all-star or an MVP because that's not simply who he is. But if he's replacing Nick Castellanos, that's where you got to judge the player. So Baseball Savant does all these rankings and metrics based on every single baseball stat. So for the defensive side, I got range and arm for Adolis Garcia, and they do it on a scale, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best. So if you're in the 100th percentile of your stat, you're the best in the league. If you're in the 0 or first percentile, you're in the worst. So that's kind of the grade scale, just so you guys can get an idea. So he ranked 71st in range. So he's not like the best in range, but 71st is still way above average. His arm strength is his calling card. He's ranked 92nd percentile with his arm. We have not had a guy in right field in years. Ever since Bryce Harper moved from right field to first base, right field has been a black plague in the sense of defensive. And let's get into the guy he's replacing, Nick Castellanos, because his range was in the first percentile in Major League Baseball. He was quite literally the worst defensive outfielder in regards to range, because I get this argument all the times for the Casty defenders. And I like Casty, but he's gone. He's moved on. Good luck in San Diego. But they always say, well, Nick Castellanos doesn't make errors. That is so completely misleading. You know why he doesn't make errors? Because he doesn't get to the baseball. If the ball doesn't touch the glove, technically it's not an error. And I can go back to, this is game 7 of the NLCS against the Diamondbacks when we're down 3-2. I think Ketel Marte hits a fly ball to right, and it just goes over Nick Castellanos' head to where any average right fielder makes that catch, and maybe some things happen differently in that 8th or 9th inning. Maybe we win it all. That's wishful thinking, but it just shows that Nick Castellanos, the inability to get to the baseball is a deficiency that can't be measured in the sense of errors, but it can be measured in the sense of range. And it shows that he's in the first percentile. And then his arm strength is ranked 30th, to where, like, already right there, Nick Castellanos is a much, much worse defender than Adolis Garcia. Now, Nick Castellanos had a slightly better offensive year, but it was pretty close in the sense of that's why Adolis Garcia had a 2.7 WAR. That's why Nick Castellanos had a negative WAR. You have to look at the player in totality. So that's why I think the Phillies fans need to come in with Adolis Garcia and just under the notion he's just replacing Castellanos for 1 year. So that we can only go up from here. Now, the big thing with Adolis Garcia is, will the bat return? Right? Because if Adolis Garcia can give you any resemblance of the 2023 form, not the exact same stats, because I don't think that's ever going to happen again, but something close, you have a 4-5 win player because of what he brings on the defensive side. And Tom Verducci on MLB Network, I posted this to Baseball Maniacs Instagram page. He had a really good breakdown on Adolis Garcia between 2023 and 2025 and kind of what might have led to his offensive struggles. So Adolis Garcia saw the second most percentage of fastballs in the zone out of any major league player because he was struggling so mightily against fastballs last year. Pitchers knew we couldn't catch up to it, so they were just blowing smoke by him. And Verducci broke it down in the video to where in 2023, he had the rhythm, he had the flair, he had the juice. His pre-pitch setup, he's wagging the bat, and then right when the pitch came in the zone, he has a little tilt, and then it's just A-B to the ball. But if you look at the 2025 video, he's right here, and he's just swinging. And there's no rhythm, there's no timing, to where that's why he wasn't able to catch up to the fastball. And you might think, well, if he's simplifying his approach and he's just a beatable, he should be able to catch up to those fastballs. Adolis Garcia is a rhythm player at the plate. He needs to time up the pitcher because no matter what he's doing, he's trying to send the ball over to the moon, to where you have to have that little wag and then bang, because it's like a dance with the pitcher. You're waiting for it to hear, and then you come down and you're ready to explode. Compared to in 2025, where he lost that to where he's just here and he's just tight. He's tight. The pitches are by him. To where I think Kevin Long is going to see that, make the adjustment, and again, not 2023. Let's not be unrealistic, but I really think he can turn into a player that's somewhere in the middle, keep his defensive value, and then you have a really good right fielder. And I know I've seen some of this stuff on Twitter or X. Everyone's saying if you expect Kevin Long to be good at his job, you're not smart. Kevin Long is a damn good hitting coach. He cannot fundamentally change hitters to where Turner, Schwarber, Harper are swinging at bad pitches in the postseason. Alec Bohm, you can't change that. All you have to do is give your best advice and make slight little adjustments, because at the end of the day, Kevin Long is not in the batter's box. He can't make the decision for the hitters. And you got to look at his history. Juan Soto reveres Kevin Long, says he's one of the best hitting coaches in baseball. If Juan Soto's saying that, who are you to kind of disagree with that? Kyle Schwarber loves him. In 2021, Kyle Schwarber rejuvenated his career in Washington before he got traded to the Red Sox. Who was the hitting coach for the Washington Nationals in 2021? It was Kevin Long. Who came to Philly in 2022 with Kyle Schwarber? It's Kevin Long. So as much as you want to talk about the postseason struggles with Kevin Long to where he can't make adjustments with these hitters, you got to talk about the good stuff as well. Because again, he can't get into the box. So I don't want to get on a tangent about Kevin Long. Kevin Long is one of the best hitting coaches in baseball. The Phillies made the right decision bringing him back for 3 more years. So I think he's going to see that with Adolis Garcia, make that slight little adjustment and be like to him, hey, be you. Have the flair. Go up there, rhythm, timing, wag that bat, and then go through the zone and then hit as many moonshots as you can. So let's get into my actual 2026 prediction for Adolis Garcia. I have him batting .230. Again, the average is never going to be there. That's not his calling card. But I think he can hit 23 homers with a 745 OPS and accumulate 3.8 WAR, to where that would be so beneficial to the Phillies on a 1-year, $10 million deal, because the floor with Castellanos was so low. He was a negative wins above replacement player last year. And if you're changing that out with Adolis Garcia to where he has 3.8 wins above replacement, then that's kind of selling high. But I'm very excited for Adolis Garcia, so that's why I'm selling high. Have a guy that can hit you 20 homers, have a power threat in the lineup. That's going to make all the difference in the world, because everyone talks about the Phillies not having a 4-hitter to where Bryce Harper struggles in the 3-hole because he has no protection. Alec Bohm has been his protection. I like Alec Bohm, but I think he's definitely more meant for the 6th or 7th spot in the lineup because there's no power threat, to where Nick Castellanos, when he was signed in 2022, he was signed as that right-handed bat. Of course, it didn't work out to where the Phillies were kind of hamstrung of who to put in the 4-hole. If Adolis Garcia can have that year that I think he's going to have, you put him in the 4-hole. Now my lineup, I did it yesterday. It's crazy. It was Harper, Schwarber, Turner, and then Alec Bohm. That was my 4, and that's just because I think Harper or Turner and Bohm play off each other well with the speed and contact aspect. But I personally don't think the Phillies are going to do that. I think they're going to go Turner, Harper, Schwarber, and then the question is the 4-hole. I think you got to start Adolis Garcia out in the 4-hole just because, again, the threat of the power. The 4-hole hitter needs to be productive so the 3-hitter can see pitches. Because if you have an Alec Bohm in there, a JT Realmuto, and Nick Castellanos, no pitcher in their right mind is going to give Bryce Harper anything to hit. And we saw that last year when he saw 43% of pitches in the strike zone, which was the lowest percent of strikes any major leaguer saw last year. You put Adolis Garcia in there, even if he's striking out a decent amount, even if he's not up to the level of 2023, kind of a mix of 24, 25, and 23, somewhere right in the middle, it's just the thought of if you walk Harper, there's a guy behind there that can genuinely put 2 runs on the board with 1 swing of the bat. So that's why I think if the Phillies go with the lineup of Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Adolis Garcia needs to bat 4. Because here's the thing. If he struggles mightily and it's clear that he is the same player he was the last years, then you go back to Alec Bohm. But Alec Bohm in the 4-hole doesn't work. We've seen that the last few postseasons. So why wouldn't we try something different in March, April, May? It's a feel-out process for October. That's where the Philadelphia Phillies are. So that's kind of my prediction for Adolis Garcia. I'm very high on him. I'm very excited to get some culture into this clubhouse, get some flair back into the city. And I think Adolis Garcia brings that. That picture the Phillies posted a couple of days ago when he's like looking absolutely jacked, that got me fired up. But let me know what you guys think about Adolis Garcia. Are you excited? Did you like the signing? Did you hate the signing? Where do you want him to bat in the order? Give me your thoughts. But that'll do it for this episode of Baseball for Maniacs. Go Phils.